This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back. Don Forbes joining us here again, our founder and principal consultant with Benefits Unlimited, based out of Sherwood Park, Alberta, in Canada. We're excited to have him back here to talk more about all he's doing with comprehensive and cost-effective employee benefit solutions to so many business owners, right? Out there, especially in the Alberta area. How are you doing today?
I'm first class all the way there, Jill. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Pleasure to have you back. For those new timers out there, tell us a little bit about yourself and the company, please.
Okay. I've been in the employee benefits business for a very, very long time, over 30 years, as a matter of fact. And recently, I have started my own practice, believe it or not. Actually, it's a return to my roots, if you will, because I've worked for a variety of consulting companies and insurance carriers. And first and foremost is always putting the client first, right? So I've always been a believer in that. And now I've set up this benefitsunlimited.ca company to really help employers and their employees with their employee benefits needs. And that includes various coverages for them, spending accounts, retirement plans, the whole gamut. And it's really quite exciting. It changes every single day. So you got to pay attention to legislation and the rules and regulations, if you will. But it's incredibly rewarding. And I think at the end of the day, Jill, the engagement of the employees increases and the retention of those employees increases, and it's easier to attract employees. And especially in the labor market today, this becomes a pretty important factor to employers. Uh, they want to be able to retain their employees. They want their employees productive and engaged at work. And if they
Yeah.
have an opening, they want to be able to attract the right talent. And that is fundamental to the benefit strategy that I try and put into place for employers.
Beautiful. All right. Tell us what you wanted to kind of dive into for us today, please.
Well, I think the one thing that I really like to do for folks is create value for the employers, basically, because just to help the listeners a little bit, the way our business works is that our client really is the employer. Okay. The employer has the needs, of course, of their employees, but when I'm working as a consultant, I am working with the employer, then that's the main focus. I'm trying to reduce their liability and make them aware of that. And I like putting every employer that I deal with through a bit of a checklist. So basically, it's a list of different things that employers should be aware of. Some of them they are aware of, some of them they are not. And invariably, each one of those points in the checklist, and I think
Mm-hmm.
up to about 40, 50 points,
Oh, wow.
um, can create liability issues for the employer, you see. So I take them through that checklist. That means their benefits plan is working efficiently and effectively. It really mitigates any liability. There's a few advisors up here in Canada that do take employers through a checklist of sorts, and it has really benefited the employer community. From that, once you have gone through the checklist with, like once I go through the checklist with an employer, I take them through the plan design itself and really create that in a way, or revise it, if I should say, in a way that really helps what I was saying earlier in terms of increasing
Yeah.
the engagement and whatnot. But if you run into a situation, and I've run into many of them,
Hmm.
where it's a
I'm sure.
liability issue, people, you know, that's that's not a good thing, right? That's bad news for the employer. Typically, it's pretty bad news for the employee too. And there's a PR risk involved with that too. If there's a liability issue and it involves the courts and lawsuits and whatnot,
Wow.
a company's brand could be damaged by that. So that is probably first and foremost. There's a variety of different things that we do, but that by and large, I put on webinars, in-person consultations, one-on-one. So it's when it's one-on-one, we're really diving into the weeds, if you will, and getting into the issues. Webinar or in person, where I'm presenting to a group of employers, is more high level, just trying to give them the gist of what it is that they should be looking at with their own current advisor. And if there's anything there that they'd like to talk to me about, I'm certainly free to do that. I'm
Yeah.
all about, like I said at the beginning, about the client and trying to make their benefits plan that much better.
Perfect. What's wrong with most benefit plans that you see? Ooh.
Wow, what's wrong? I would say there's two key things that every employer out there, every advisor out there should be aware of. One, excuse me, one is the contract itself. What does the contract say? Does it really get into what the employer wants to provide? Because surprisingly, a lot of people take it for granted that all benefits plans are created equal. They're not. They're all different, and there's a misconception that a particular insurance company is the one that really decides what type of benefit plan an employer is going to have. No, it's a triangle, meaning there's the insurance company, there's the employer, and then there's the advisor. And between the three, they put together a plan that is reflected in that contract. So it's very important to understand what that contract actually says. And I can't tell you how many times that I've looked at a contract and it does not reflect what the employer or the employees figure that
Mhm.
they have. Okay. It's really amazing to me, but that would be one thing. Look at the contract, and then, believe it or not, look at the billing statement. And why is that important? Is everybody that is eligible on the plan?
Yeah.
And I've seen numerous instances where they're not. There's people that are actually working at a company, they're not on the plan. What about people that have been terminated? Are they still on the plan?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen instances where they're still on the plan and they're working somewhere else. So what I'm saying there, Jill, is when an advisor or the employer looks at their bill, make sure that it accurately reflects those individual employees that are actually eligible and that they're all on the plan. The other thing that is really critical that I've seen is where people are underinsured.
Mm-hmm.
They have been placed on the plan. Okay, great. But their salary could be wrong, or they haven't applied for coverage over and above what we call the non-evidence limit. Sometimes the non-evidence limit is the same as the overall maximum,
Yeah.
but I've seen so many instances where there is a big gap between what they're actually covered for and what their actual income is. And it's not a problem. I know I've said this before, until it's a problem. So what happens if somebody dies or becomes disabled and they're underinsured?
Ah,
Hence, that is the liability aspect that an employer faces. Because in those instances, the employer is actually becoming the insurance company. The insurance company will pay whatever the premiums have been paid for that coverage,
yeah.
and the employer typically is responsible for the balance. And when you're talking about life insurance, especially, that could be tens of thousands of dollars of liability there. So I think those two aspects, the contract and the bill, are two important tools that every employer has in their toolbox, so to speak, but they need to be intimately familiar with it. And one of the problems that we see continually, I don't know how big of a problem it is in the US, but typically a lot of companies are managing these benefit programs and their pension programs on the side of their desk. They're
Yep.
not paying enough attention to
Nope.
the
Got it.
logistics of it,
Yep.
right? So it's really important that they pay attention to that.
Hmm.
I'm going to have a sip
Well,
too.
thank you. And for those that don't know, I know I got to know you the last time we spoke a little bit better, but about your background, you have a lot of experience. I just think that's important to mention to our new time viewers and listeners out there today. Because I know you've been in sales, your entire life, just like me. You had a paper route, I remember you said. I used to do that too when I was 12. But you've been a hard worker all your life. Could you just share a little bit about where your career has been and how it got here for those new timers?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, you're right. I've sold just about everything, soup to nuts, so to speak. But yeah, I started way back when with a paper route and tried to encourage people to subscribe to the papers. So that was my first taste of sales, if you will.
Got it.
I had a job at a grocery store and increased the sales of the dairy.
You lost your audio there for a second.
Oh,
Repeat what you were
really?
just saying.
You got
Yeah,
me
I heard
back?
you. Paper. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know what happened. So paper sales. I remember that. Yes, go ahead. And
Yeah.
then you went
Okay.
blank.
Then I graduated to working in a grocery store and
Hmm.
increased the sales of the dairy products there, the frozen food products. Then I moved into advertising and selling real estate advertising, actually. Where you are courting the realtors to put ads in the magazines so that people will pick up the magazine and they'll
Hmm.
contact the realtor to buy a house, right? So, and then I sold trade magazines, advertising as well. A lot of that over the phone, which is amazing to me. But anyway, and I've sold cars. But being a moral and ethical human being, selling cars, no offense to car salesmen out there, but it was really difficult for me to be very open and honest and transparent, where more or less everybody that was coming in to the dealership at that time just wanted a deal and didn't think I was telling them the truth. So it was difficult. But after all that, I sold fitness memberships, but I wanted to get into an industry, and that's why I'm in the employee benefits business today. I want to get in an industry that would really help people. And like I said, I'm helping employers help their employees. And at the end of the day, we're providing benefits for the family, benefits for individuals. We're delivering money when families need it the most, whether they've lost a loved one due to, a disease,
Yeah.
cancer, heart attack, stroke, whatever the case may be, or providing income for people that are sick or hurt and cannot work, providing medical benefits and health benefits, dental benefits, basically, for those things that people need to be happy and healthy while they're working. And if they are happy and healthy, and we look after those benefits, typically, like I said before, retention is up, engagement is up, productivity is up. So it's really quite a good thing. So I've sold tons of stuff, but I will say that it is about the client at the end of the day. It's finding out about their needs, finding out about their problems,
Yeah.
maybe even making them aware of problems that don't exist. And that's something that's universal. I don't care what it is that you're quote unquote selling. It's finding a need and filling it. Finding out what the problem is, investigate it, find a solution for it. Making people aware of a problem that doesn't
Yeah.
exist or they don't know exists, and again, digging in and finding solutions for it. And that has been very rewarding. And at the end of the day, really doesn't matter whether a sale is made or not. If you do those things, typically you will be tremendously successful. I know I have. Um, and no pressure, no product bias. Just do the right thing, and you're going to do very well. And that's been my mantra, if you will, over the years.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Obviously we for those new timers, we got to know you today, a little bit of what you're doing. And for the rest of the show, what else do you want to share with us? Do you want to talk about some of your clients, some examples of how you can help? I mean, I just want to make sure we're covering everything that's most important for you today.
Okay, no, that's great. I'd like to tell everybody about a story. I was talking about the liability and things like that, and I've used this story a fair bit, but it for me it helps people to relate to what I do. Okay, so this one particular client I inherited from another company, and it was my first appointment with them. I had communicated with them for a few months, but it was my first appointment. I sat down in the chair. The plan administrator was sitting there, and the owner was sitting there. And after the introductions, the owner said, "You cost me $150,000."
Mhm.
And I looked at him and I said, "Tell me more. Like,
Yeah.
what is it that you're talking about?" Well, there was a key individual that helped him start the company that had been put on the plan 15 or 20 years prior,
Mm-hmm.
and the coverage was not kept up to date.
Yeah.
This particular individual got disabled and
Ah.
saw that his income was now $1,500 or $2,000 a month when it should have been eight to ten
Mm.
thousand dollars a month. And so this particular employee sued his friend, his employer, for the difference. The insurance company paid the $1,500, but the employer had to pay the employee the
Ah.
difference. That's what I was saying earlier about becoming an insurer. So we worked through that, and I had given them a report that detailed every employee on the plan, what their current salary was, what the coverage was in place, and what they were eligible for. So they
Yeah.
could see very clearly
Wow.
what was what. And remember when I said that there's a lot of companies do this on the side of their desk? Well, I'm sure that they didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just this one person. There was 15 or 20 people in that group that were underinsured. So we got that all fixed up. And as a matter of fact, we also made a plan design change so that it wasn't incumbent upon the plan administrator to follow up with employees to make sure that they got their application forms in and whatnot. We made it automatic so that they would be insured up to the maximum without any medical questions whatsoever. And so I went from a client that was really quite angry to one that was like, wow, I got friends that I can point you to that I'm sure are encountering the same thing. It's true. It happens way more than I wish would ever happen, but that's probably the one of the major stories that I've done. I basically prevented, and if you added up the 15 or 20 people that were underinsured, the amount of liability there ran into the millions of dollars for this employer, which is a scary number. Now, for
Yeah.
large employers, the same thing can hold true, or even a small employer. If there's a gap in coverage there, like I said, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And so, if somebody dies, becomes disabled, or whatever, um, typically the employer becomes the insurance company, which is not a good thing. Believe me.
Ah.
Does that make
Wow.
sense?
It sure does. Thank you. Wow. And you're working strictly in Canada, right? For now, that's where you're doing most of your
That's
work.
correct.
Got
Yes,
it.
I've worked with firms right across the country. Um, and I've worked with a few U.S. advisory firms as well, dealing with some U.S. benefits. But typically, I think this at this time, you really need to deal with a specialist. And so I'm in Alberta. I'm licensed in Alberta. I am certified employee benefit specialist, compliant in the province of Alberta. That's what I'm specializing in. Looking at growing, might go nationwide and might have um, business in the U.S. at some point too. But rather than trying to swallow the whole apple, I'm going to start taking a few bites and going on from there.
Got it. Oh my goodness. Well, that's, I could imagine. Let me ask you though, in the course of, the years of the economy and all, I don't know, I obviously know more about the US and Canada, but what is happening, with companies? I mean, a lot of companies here, I know in the US, they've limited benefits. It's a very hard thing to find a good job these days that have a good benefits package. I feel like back in the day, things were a lot better, and then employees kind of got a little cheaper in a sense. I don't know if that's something that's been happening worldwide or whatever, but yeah, just in your opinion, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I think that, in a tight labor market, businesses have to look at costs, and you have to really consider that. But I like to keep everything in perspective a little bit. Meaning, there's a percentage of payroll that is going for benefit plans. Now, there's certain government benefits you don't really have a choice, right? The government has decided that you got to pay, the employees and the employers have to pay so much into the government programs, and I believe that that's the same in the U.S. as well. So you really have to look at, well, what is your vision? What is your culture? Like, are benefits just another commodity? Like, are you just looking at, okay, we've got to cut costs here, we've got to cut costs there? There are ways to do it. There are ways to revise a plan that you don't really necessarily have to blow the benefit plans up, right? But
Yeah,
that means talking to somebody who's very knowledgeable, who has, the correct designations, because there are more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. It is real. Smaller companies tend to cut pretty quickly. Larger companies find that they can't really afford to cut the benefit plan. Like I said, they're looking at bigger issues like retention and attraction of employees and trying to keep their workforce engaged. As soon as you work a benefits plan and you start cutting, it has a negative impact
got
on
it.
your workforce. So why would you do that? Like think that one through. Um, and it is about competition too. Like, what is available in the marketplace? Are people going to gravitate to another employer that has a benefit program? Quite possibly.
Yeah.
That's why I think the one size fits all benefits and pension plans really do need to change. They need to be more flexible, give employees some say and some choice in the matter. And I think too, rather than an employer just going ahead and cutting benefits, have a discussion with the employees about it. Say, we are looking at doing this. What are the most important benefits for you? Like, if I was to ask you, Jill, what are the most important benefits for you? Your answer might be different than one of your peers' answers or one of your
Yeah.
superior answers or somebody that's reporting to you. Everybody has different needs, right? But a benefits program is designed to really influence or provide benefits for the greater number of people, right? So I think that would. I hope I answered your question. Kind of got carried away there a little bit.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Can you please tell us how we can contact you?
Sure. Uh, benefitsunlimited.ca. Very easy. Uh, on Yelp as well. Uh, my email address is don@benefitsunlimited.ca. Benefits Unlimited is all one word. Happy to talk to anybody anytime. And that includes not just employers, but advisors as well. I do a lot of work with the Canadian Pension Benefits Institute up here in Canada. We provide a lot of educational programs for employers and employees alike. I'm also a member of the Canadian Group Insurance Brokers. We do a lot of education there too. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll be back again to chat soon. In the meantime, pleasure having you back here. And for all of our listeners, once again, Don Forbes joining us, benefitsunlimited.ca. Thank you again, Don. Gotta run. Talk soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.